With the 2020 NBA season restarting and the playoffs looming around the corner, day by day I'm remembering more and more about great playoff performances. And what I've understood is, never say never. It's the NBA. It doesn't matter how big of a lead you have, it's not over until the final horn. It's one thing to make a comeback during the regular season, but it's a completely different momentum changer when you do it in the playoffs. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Purple Prince here, and today we'll look at the 10 greatest playoff comeback wins in the NBA history. Number 10. Trailblazers vs Mavericks, 2011. Back in the first round of the 2011 NBA playoffs, the 3rd-seeded Dallas Mavericks were facing the 6th-seeded Portland Trailblazers. Going into the 4th game, the Mavericks were leading the series 2-1. It seemed like Game 4 would be another win for the Mavericks, especially after the 3rd quarter, in which the Mavericks outscored the Trailblazers 30-14, ballooning their lead to 23 points with less than a minute left in the 3rd quarter. Portland managed to cut the lead to 18 points going into the 4th, but still it seemed the game was way out of hands by then. Well, nobody knew that it was going to be a Brandon Roy show from that point on. Up until the 4th quarter, Brandon Roy had made just 1 out of his 3 field goal attempts. LaMarcus Aldridge was 3 out of 12, nobody was delivering. And then, Roy delivered. Playing all but 11 seconds of the 4th quarter, Brandon Roy made 8 out of his 10 field goal attempts and assisted on 4 more field goals, propelling the Trailblazers to a 35-point outburst in the 4th quarter and a narrow 2-point win over the Mavericks, 84-82. Jason Terry had a chance to win the game in the end, but missed his 3-pointer. After tying up the series 2-2, the Portland Trailblazers did lose the next 2 games and the series to the Mavericks, but what a comeback to remember in Game 4. Number 9. Celtics vs Lakers, 2008. The 2008 NBA Finals featured 2 of the league's most popular franchises, the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Celtics led the series 2-1 going into the 4th game of the series in Los Angeles. The Lakers had a monster first quarter, and going into the 2nd they had a 21-point lead, 35-14. With 6 minutes and 40 seconds left in the 2nd quarter, the Lakers were up by 24 points, and it seemed the 2-2 series score is just a formality now. Boston came back with a 12-0 run, but still by the quarter's end, the Lakers took a comfortable 18-point lead into halftime. During the break, Celtics captain Paul Pierce made an adjustment that ultimately helped change the shape of the game. He said to his coach Doc Rivers that he wants to guard Kobe. Kobe finished the game with just 17 points on 6 of 19 shooting. Meanwhile, the Celtics scored 57 points in the half against the Lakers while allowing just 33. The damage was done in the 3rd quarter when the Celtics had a 21-3 run and eventually cut the Lakers' lead to just 2 points going into the 4th. Even though the Lakers still had the lead, the game was already lost. Boston won the 4th quarter comfortably and eventually ended up winning the series with a 39-point slaughter in Game 6. That was Boston's 17th NBA championship. Number 8. Spurs vs Clippers, 2012. After sweeping the Utah Jazz in the first round of the 2012 playoffs, the first-seeded San Antonio Spurs now had to face the new-look Clippers. They still were the favorites, but the Clippers had some firepower with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. The Spurs won the first 2 games handily, but now they had to go to LA for Game 3. The game couldn't have started better for the Clippers, as they took a monstrous 22-point lead after the first quarter. That lead climbed to 24 points during the 2nd quarter, and that's when the comeback started. By halftime, the Clippers led by just 10 points, and with a great 3rd quarter, the Spurs took over the game completely. A 26-8 3rd quarter, including a 24-0 run, gave the Spurs an 8-point lead going into the 4th. The Clippers did bounce back, scoring 25 points in the 4th, but the Spurs never faded. They scored 27, making the final score 96-86 in the favor of the Texas team. Spurs went up 3-0 and squeaked out a close win in Game 4 to clinch the series and complete a sweep. Number 7. Warriors vs Spurs, 2017. This one is one of the most controversial comebacks in NBA history, and probably it started the end of the Spurs dynasty as we knew it. The 2 best teams from the regular season faced each other in the conference finals. Game 1. Spurs have a great start and are up 30-16 after the first quarter. Second quarter, much of the same. Spurs increased their lead to 25 points at one point, and at halftime the lead was 20 points. Absolutely everything changed in the third quarter. Early in the third, Leonard, who up until that point was having a great game, made a three-pointer and slipped along the sideline. He came up hobbling down the court and left the game. He came back shortly thereafter, but after attempting a long two-pointer, he landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot. Pachulia was whistled for the foul, but Leonard could barely move. Leonard made his free throws but then left the game and never returned. At that point, the Spurs still had a 23-point lead, but the loss was so big, the Spurs couldn't keep the lead. Golden State went on an 18-0 run to cut the lead dramatically. In the end, the Warriors outscored the Spurs by 22 points in the second half and won the game 113-111. Kawhi never returned to the series and the Spurs got swept. Kawhi played just 9 more games for the Spurs next year before being sent to the Raptors. Thanks a lot, Pachulia. Number 6. Thunder vs Jazz 2018. A lot of questions surrounded the Oklahoma City Thunder after Kevin Durant left the team to join the Golden State Warriors. One of those questions was, can they be successful in the playoffs? With the addition of Paul George, they had all the tools to be so. While they never accomplished as much as they should have, they did have a great comeback. April 25, 2018, first round of the playoffs. Oklahoma City is down 3-1 in the series. The Jazz had a great start to Game 5. Through the third quarter, Utah led the Thunder by 25 points, and then the tables turned. The big lead was gone just like that. Thunder ended the third quarter on a 32-7 run, and by the beginning of the fourth quarter, the score was tied. Paul George and Russell Westbrook showed up in the fourth quarter as well, scoring 22 points combined and leading the Thunder to 107-99 victory. For the game, Westbrook scored 45 while Paul George added 34 points. The Thunder did lose the series in the next game, but what a comeback for the fans of Oklahoma City. Number 5. Cavaliers vs Pacers 2017. In the 2017 NBA playoffs, nobody was expecting the Pacers to overtake the LeBron James-led Cavaliers in the first round of the playoffs, and it did end as a sweep for the Cavaliers 4-0, but there was one close call during the series, Game 3. The Pacers are up 10 points by the end of the first quarter, 37-27. They have another offensive outburst in the second quarter, 37 more points, and now at halftime, they lead the Cavaliers 74-49. At one point, Indiana was enjoying a 26-point lead. All the smiles on the Pacers bench ended in the third quarter. By mid-third quarter, the Pacers' edge was only 14 points. Then 2 quick threes from Indiana raised the deficit back to 20 points, but the 17-4 run by the Cavaliers to end the quarter cut Indiana's lead all the way down to just 7 points. A great fourth quarter from obviously LeBron James, who netted 15 points, and he had 2 partners in crime. No, not Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. They didn't even play in the fourth. Channing Frye and Kyle Korver combined for 17 points. Cavaliers won the game 119-114. LeBron James was his excellent self, 41 points, 13 rebounds and 12 assists. 5 more Cavaliers scored double-digit points. Game 4 was close as well, but the Cavaliers won again. Indiana was swept for the first time in franchise history. Number 4. Celtics vs Nets 2002. Finally, we go back deeper in NBA history. Back in the 2002 NBA Eastern Conference Finals, the first-seeded New Jersey Nets were facing off against the third-seeded Boston Celtics. After splitting the first pair of games, the series went to Boston for Game 3. The Nets had a great first quarter and gained a 15-point lead. The Nets added 5 more points to their lead by halftime, and at one point in the third quarter, their lead was as high as 26 points. That is, until Boston decided to do something about it. New Jersey carried a 21-point lead into the final quarter, but in the fourth, Paul Pierce himself outscored the whole Nets team 19-16. Boston as a team managed to score 41 points, and what once was a 26-point lead for the Nets now turned into a 4-point loss, 90-94. That's a 30-point swing, ladies and gentlemen. The Celtics went up in the series 2-1, but lost the next 3 games and subsequently the series as well. Number 3. Clippers vs Grizzlies 2012. The first round of the playoffs. Chris Paul playing with a mild left groin strain. Caron Butler lost in the third quarter to a fractured left hand. You would think there's no chance the Clippers could pull it off. Well, apparently Memphis didn't think so either. After rushing to an early 18-point lead after the first quarter, it seemed that the game could already be in the bag. The Grizzlies led by 19 at the half, and with 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the third quarter, they were leading by as much as 27 points. With 9 minutes left in the game, the lead was 24 points. 2 minutes later, it was 18, and 2 more minutes later, it was only 12 points. With 50 seconds left in the game, the Clippers took their first lead of the game, 97-96. Thanks to Rudy Gay, the Grizzlies took the lead back, but with 23 seconds left on the clock, Chris Paul made both of his free throws to make the score 99-98 in favor of the Clippers. And that's how the game ended, as Rudy Gay missed a possible game-winning two-pointer with less than a second left. The Clippers outscored the Grizzlies 35-13 in the final quarter and ended up winning the series in 7 games. Number 2. Lakers vs Supersonics, 1989. There was no question about who the favorite is going into the series. The only question was, can the Lakers attain a second consecutive playoff series sweep? Now, the possibility of that happening was looking pretty slim. Being 0-3 down in the series, the Supersonics started the Game 4 hot. They outscored the Lakers by 20 points in the first and added some more at the beginning of the second quarter. After just 14 minutes of play, the Lakers were down 29 points, 14-43. What followed was some magic. The Lakers went on a 16-0 run and ended the half on a 22-6 run. The lead was cut down to 11 points going into the fourth. Lakers put together an 18-6 run in the fourth to get their first lead with 6 minutes to play, and they never gave it back. James Worthy made 15 of 19 field goals and scored 33 points in total. Magic Johnson almost netted a triple-double with 17, 9 and 9. The Lakers won the game 97-95 and swept the Supersonics 4-0. Number 1. Clippers vs Warriors 2019. The biggest playoff comeback in the history of the NBA happened just recently in the last year's playoffs. The 8th-seeded LA Clippers had to face the 1st-seeded juggernaut, the Golden State Warriors. The Clippers didn't have Paul George, they didn't have Kawhi Leonard, but what they had was a team. After winning the first game of the series handily, Golden State was well on its way to finishing Game 2 in the same manner. The first quarter saw the Warriors gain an 8-point lead. That lead blossomed to 23 points at halftime, and by mid-third quarter, Golden State was up 94-63, resting its key players and just having fun. Then the Lou Williams show started. A bunch of fast buckets, a 31-14 run to end the quarter, and the Warriors' lead was now down to 14 points. They kept that lead all the way till the mid-fourth quarter, and then the Clippers went on an 11-0 run in just over a minute. The gap was only 3 points now. Teams went back and forth, and with little more than a minute left, Lou Will finally tied the game, 128-128. A mere 12 seconds later, Curry buried a 3 which put up Golden State by 3 points once again, but that was the last basket for the Warriors. The Clippers went on a 7-0 run to end the game and complete an amazing comeback, 135-131. Yes, the Clippers lost the series eventually, in 6 games, in a large part thanks to Kevin Durant, who averaged 39 points over the next 4 games. But even in a Clippers loss, we were witnesses of a true playoff miracle, the greatest playoff comeback in NBA history. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Which comeback was the best in your opinion? Which one did you enjoy the most? Maybe there are some other playoff comebacks that didn't quite make the list but should be remembered nonetheless. Please leave a comment below. Make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And let's wait for the 2020 playoffs. There should be some good comebacks coming our way very soon. Thanks. This is Purple Prince, and I'm out.
Listen now, Skip, I told you now, AD and LeBron just came in here now, Skip. So listen now, Skip, when you... You thought I was talking to Skip? Yeah, I did. Look. Listen, Skip, the Lakers now, listen now. The Lakers, I got the Lakers in 7.